This is the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast, hosted by David Charlton, and you're listening to this podcast to help you build your own mental toughness, so that you can support other people or your clients better. Either way, you will learn more about developing this plastic personality trait that all but guarantees that you will perform better and lead a more prosperous life. So as I record the introduction to this latest episode of Demystifying Mental Toughness, I've got to say how great it's been to witness crowds back in sporting events. We've seen the crowds at the Euros in the football, and we've seen how the players have responded to them. We've also seen the crowds at Wimbledon in the tennis. Last week, I really enjoyed watching Andy Murray battle through in those early rounds. It's been such a shame to witness how his career stalled and gone backwards because of factors largely out of his control. The very, very serious injury that he went through. Now, there's one thing about this guy, Andy Murray. He certainly oozes mental toughness. I've watched the documentary on Amazon, and his dedication to his craft, his commitment to trying to get back to where he belongs on a tennis court and playing against some of the best players in the world is truly fantastic and massively inspirational. I really hope that this is just the start of a period where things go his way, where he's able to get truly match fit and pit himself against the best again. Wouldn't it be such a remarkable story if he went on to do so? And now with the episode, I've set this up quite nicely where we're going to talk about the psychological side to tennis. It's a game that I follow closely and I have done for years. And it's a game in my mind which is hugely psychological. The way matches ebb and flow, the fact that you can blink your eye and all of a sudden a player's lost a high number of games, certainly a high number of points. It's such a mental game. And today I'm joined by my friend and colleague, a well-respected sports psychologist, James Lau, who's got a fascination with racket sports. Welcome, James. Okay, hi James. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about your background in tennis and in racket sports and obviously your interest in sports psychology?
Yeah. So I've been around racket sports basically all my life. I used to go down to this club where my dad plays badminton and he still plays there, 20, 30 years later. So it's pretty good going. But I used to go down with him every weekend. And my weekend would just be tennis, badminton, table tennis, squash, just whatever racket sports they have on offer. And then I started taking, lessons on a couple of them, and got quite serious. And tennis is the one that stuck all the way. Badminton I haven't played for ages. Squash, same really. And tennis is the one that kind of just stuck by me through all these years. And I still play quite a lot now. I played for my school team, I played for my uni team. Now I just play kind of every now and then, a lot less competitively, just time and having a 2-year-old has kind of put a little stop on that for a bit as well. And obviously COVID. Yeah, so it's not been too good lately on the tennis front, but I am trying to get back to the swing of things.
So obviously I'm a golfer and I know you play a little bit of golf as well. So in golfing handicap terms, and where would you, what's been your best handicap for us in tennis then?
Handicap in tennis? I don't know how that works. I was going to say I don't have a golf handicap. Well, I don't know.
would you be near a scratch handicap, 5 handicap in tennis?
Nowhere near
tennis
If I was scratch handicap in tennis, I'd be playing in Paris right now. I don't know, maybe 5 to 10, somewhere in that range, maybe. I don't know. It depends.
You're pretty decent though. At the end of the day, you'd wipe the floor with me. So that's your background, obviously, in tennis racket sports. And do you want to just tell the listeners a little bit about your interest in sports psychology, where that began, and how it's unfolded over the last few years?
Yeah. And so it basically started from me watching a lot of sports as a youngster and just being interested in how different players behave differently. So be it tennis or football, I'm still really into football as well. And just seeing little things, and you've got controversial incidents, the famous incidents in the past, with footballers, attacking fans and punching each other and all that stuff. So it got my interest up there. Just well, why did they do that? Because I would never do that myself. So why would someone else do it? And then it got a bit kind of more and more personal as well. So when I was playing tennis, I used to get quite nervous when I was playing kind of big kind of school competitions and stuff, and it affect me quite a bit. And I'd be quite tense, not able to play as well as I like to. And yeah, so all of that just made me wonder, what is it that's been, bothering me? What is it that kind of controls other people as well? And you see, even the best players in the world, they do kind of they go through what I used to go through as well. And so that basically kicked it off. And just decided to study at uni because there wasn't psychology at school. And it just went from there, specialized in sports psychology, did a master's and then training. And in the last few years, I've been trying to work kind of specifically in racket sports as well. And
okay, no, that's great. So can we dig into yourself? Have we, as a case study in some ways? We're going to talk soon about like different challenges that people face. But
yeah,
if you were if a parent of a young tennis player approached you to support their child who who was going through similar challenges to you when you were younger, with being tense and not being able to express themselves, how would you best support them?
Yeah, so I'd start with just making sure they understand the relationship, between kind of the thoughts and how they behave. Because if they don't, I find that it's really difficult to really identify what the reasons are. Because everyone can think the same things, but the reasoning behind those thoughts might be completely different. So, for me, I got tense because I just wanted to win. I wanted to, show people that, we were the best team or whatever it was. But some might be, my parents demand a lot of me, like you say. If this is the case study, so that the pressure that they bring up, if you don't get to this stage by this age, then we don't want you to continue, or it can come from a whole different kind of so many different reasons for players to feel that way. So yeah, I would start with getting them to understand why it is that they do what they do, why is it that they think of certain things whenever they do, and then just go from there. And then you can go a bit deeper and start to kind of dispute what they think. Does it really help them? Does it make sense for them to think that particular way? And then once we've got past that, we can look to create kind of alternative thoughts, ones that's going to benefit them, make them more flexible going forward, and just being able to, like you say, express themselves and not just dwell on the bad things that's going to go on and on and on. And yeah, so that's where I'd start with this particular case study.
Okay, so supposing you've done that, you've done a few sessions there around the thoughts, restructuring their thoughts. Is there any other areas that where you would say are quite common in this respect that you might go on to explore? Yeah,
like Preshot Routine, as you probably be very familiar with in golf as well. So two sports that you have a lot of time to think about what you're going to do, what might happen, and all the different things, any distractions, what to have for dinner or something, Yeah, so Preshot Routine is kind of, for me, one of the most crucial part of tennis, because it can help with a variety of things like, nerves and tension. Like I mentioned, it can keep your focus away from that. So you can focus on the next point and next point only, your intention, your tactics. And then go into a bit more detail, you can implement different techniques like self-talk or imagery that can help with your confidence if it's a part of the game that you're not comfortable with, or something's not going too well. For example, you're not serving well, rather than saying, okay, this is not going to go in now because I've been missing these all day. It can keep your focus on what you actually need to do in order to execute as well as you can, rather than just thinking about what's happened in the past and things that aren't going to help you at all in regards to your performance.
I'd imagine as well with tennis and most racket sports, they're quite quick paced. They're very quick paced, where a set can be gone just like that. So the pre-shot routine will be like vital there to help people just slow down and sort of try and take control of the situation.
Yeah. Even with the pros, even with just watching the French Open this past couple of weeks, you've got people who are under pressure and they speed everything up, and they're not used to that because they don't play at that pace in training. They don't go that quickly, too often. So they kind of get thrown out of rhythm. And yeah, like you say, it can be 6-love, 6-1 in a matter of 20 minutes, and that's a big portion of the match that you've just kind of wasted and just lost, and you have to extra work to make up for that. So it's definitely something that it's a very, very important and useful time just to use before each point. And there's a shot clock there for a reason, because some players might have taken that to an extreme. They take too long because, well, I have this time, so why wouldn't I use it? And it's fair enough, but then it does slow the whole thing down completely. So yeah, and the shot clock's still pretty long if you think about it. If you just count out the seconds, it's a lot of time that they let you have. And yeah, I wouldn't kind of waste that time that's given to you, where you can use it to your advantage.
So I would imagine when you're talking again about pre-shot routines there, you're talking a lot about the serve. Would you also dig into like the return of serve and how someone can try and take an element of control in that regard?
Yeah. So you've got a lot of even the routine is this a different routine for basically every shot. So you've got different skills that you need to do, kind of your stance and the movements where you want to be standing, your grip, and so you've got all those to prepare for whatever serve it is, because then you just have to anticipate where it's coming, what kind of serve's coming, and you might try to read your opponent's sort of ball toss or racket head and all of those things. But ultimately, the routine is to get you kind of steady in the right position to return whatever serve's being thrown at you. So yeah, that's another thing. So the routine would be remembering maybe kind of bits and bobs from the coaches. So remember to do this. You always forget to do this at times, or you don't always kind of bend your knees here. You don't like split step at the right time, and all of those things. So those are all the routines that, similar to serving, just maybe different pointers to remind yourself to do. And yeah, the good thing is that once you're preoccupied by those thoughts, you hopefully wouldn't have too much resources or time to think about, what if this happened? This guy's serving amazingly, I can't return any of them, or serving, I'm just, like I said, just missing a lot of second serves, so what's going to change now? And so on. So yeah, the routine not only helps remind yourself what you should be doing, and it could also help you kind of force out the unhelpful thoughts at times as well.
Yeah, no, I like that. You mentioned a point there about a thought that might go into someone's head about this guy's serving amazingly. Do you find that it's quite common for tennis players, for racket sports players to get intimidated by their opponent and then for them to shoot themselves in the foot in that way?
Yeah, definitely, especially among younger players who I work with, quite a lot. You've got a lot of different like funny cases where some players can serve really, really well in the warm-ups, and then when the real thing comes, the serve's just completely different. So sometimes players could be intimidated just watching. It's like, whoa, I'm playing this guy, in 20 minutes, and like, look at his serve. Like, how am I supposed to return any of that? And then as soon as like game one starts, well, the serve isn't like exactly what I've seen. So yeah, there's definitely the element of people just being kind of a bit intimidated by bigger serves or just the size of the player. Sometimes you've got the little players and the ones who've gone through puberty maybe a little bit earlier. So same age group, but the player could be twice as tall as you. And like the serving one is definitely a funny one, because that's a lot of the time. What am I supposed to do here? Have you seen this? Like, have you seen how fast that serve is? I can try and get a racket to it, but that's all I can do. And sometimes they might bring it kind of through, and it would throw off the game plan, which is a bit of a problem. But there's some funny cases where basically psychologically as well. So why is someone serving like that in the warm up, and then as soon as the game starts, they go away from the serves that are really good into the not so good serves?
stands to reason that does. And I mean, if you look at the best players in the world there and the mental qualities they've got, in terms of let's go a returning serve. I know Andy Murray obviously was there a few years ago. He was great at that. Djokovic sort of stands out to me as someone who just doesn't have any respect for anybody who's serving at him. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's anywhere near him ever. Like from just returning, he's just ridiculous.
This is a short advertisement introducing the sponsor for the show, Chimera Sport, who produce a range of sportswear and equipment to help enhance performance and recovery, reducing injury occurrences. And as someone who has had long-standing back issues, I've personally tested some of the garments and I've been more than happy with them. You'll also find that the infrared sportswear has been clinically tested too, so it's great for fitness enthusiasts who want to push harder, go further, and recover quicker. More details can be found on the product section of our website and in the show notes. What would you imagine is like going through Djokovic's mindset? Because he's let's face it, he's going to be faced with some fantastic servers of the ball.
Yeah. I think it's just from just his confidence that he can get anything back with interest. It's not just, even if it's the biggest serve, like he'd back himself to play a pretty good return that could potentially win him the point and not just put it back. I mean, sometimes the serve's too good. You can't do anything if you can't get to it, and like he accepts it. Like he rarely gets frustrated when he like gets aced, past, but it's mainly his own errors that he goes, crazy with, and I'll probably talk a bit more about him later. But yeah, he just backs himself. You can see his focus. He knows what he needs to do, and just a bit of that is probably just instinct and just natural ability to time everything because his reactions are just so quick.
So in terms of self-talk, though, what do you think he's saying to himself if he's faced with a 6'8" guy who's serving like bombs down at him? Like what sort of things? Yeah, what do he say to himself? I'm just thinking about this from a listener's point of view, someone who's listening who might have this type of challenge and like that self-talk's quite negative in that way.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, he probably just focus on, where he wants to land a return. So making sure he gets enough, length, enough depth, because there's not really much point of just blocking something really short. You might as well just, go for a bit more and just hit it out. It's essentially the same thing as if you just kind of lob it back to, let's say, like a 7-foot player who's never going to miss the second shot anyway. So, so no kind of playing safe, just get this back kind of where it hurts the most. And like I said before, if there are some serves that are too good that you can only just kind of block it back, then that's fine. But the ones that you're in control of is none of that. Oh, this serve's huge. What am I going to do here? It's all kind of, I have confidence in my returns. I'm the best returner in the world. Probably helps him too when everyone says the same thing. Mm-hmm. Pundits, fellow players, Djokovic, he's on another planet when it comes to returning serves. And he probably used a bit of that as well. Just, why am I afraid of, whatever serve is in front of me? I don't care how big it is or how much spins on it, how accurate it is. I'm going to be here and I'm just going to play the best shot I can. And more than half the time I'll back myself to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So in some ways he's seeing that type of opponent as a challenge as opposed to like worrying.
Yeah,
placing any worry on them in some ways. And obviously Federer and Nadal are pretty special players to say the least. What sort of mental qualities do you think they bring to the party?
Yeah, with Nadal, I think it's just his consistency. He is the most consistent, mentally, in my opinion. He is just, everything is the same, which, doesn't matter. He'll go for the big fist pumps after he wins a huge point, or he does kind of get frustrated, obviously, because he's only human. But as soon as the next point starts, he's the same. He has his routine, his sleeves, his shorts, his everything, and headband. And in some way, I think he does that just to focus on what he needs to just kind of stay in a moment. Just every point is the same. It doesn't matter, what point it is. If it's the first point of the match or it's match point to the other player. And he's just always there, always ready to do what he needs to do. And the famous bottles, I don't know if you know about them. He has to obviously get them perfect, and I think in some way that helps him as well, just because it keeps his mind occupied. Just everything has to be consistent, and that's how he wants it to be, and nothing phases him because, well, some whatever point he's just played, like an epic 50-shot rally that he's just lost, and then like he's just back to just pulling his. I know you can't see this because there's an audio recording, but yeah, he's like pulling up his shoulders and pulling his shorts. It doesn't matter. Like he used to wear these pretty tight shorts. He'd still do them, and now he wears quite baggy ones, and it's just part of the routine. And he still does it. His ball tosses, like loads of them, taking his time, and it's just so consistent. It doesn't matter, how much pressure is on this point, or if there's no pressure, he'd still go through the immaculate preparation. And yeah, Federer is obviously a bit different. He's just so resilient. He analyzes the game probably better than anyone else. So, and then he's able to just adapt to whatever situation. So it doesn't do the same things, but he constantly look to change it up, and he can do it so quick. So whenever the pressure gets to him, it doesn't change him. He's still analyzing the game the same way. He's not put off by, oh, okay, I need to do this because I can't lose this point. He's thinking, well, this is a point that I really want to win. So what can I do even better? What is my biggest advantage? And what can I do differently to win the point more frequently? And there's this quote. He doesn't kind of push himself to get upset and stay. He just wants to stay positive, and that's his biggest improvement, kind of over the years. That's in his own words. So he's positive under pressure. He can see things very clearly. So it's about staying positive, just analyzing, not just, oh, if I do this, I might lose. Is always with the intention of, how can I improve this particular kind of scenario? How can I play better in this game? How can I do differently to break this guy's serve, even if he hasn't had much luck doing so. And
so yeah, Federer's very good at asking himself good questions, isn't he? By the sounds of what you're saying there, he always strikes me as someone who, yeah, he is very calm, or he looks calm on the outside. But I know from stuff I've read and heard, he wasn't always like that, and he's young.
Oh, no.
So yeah, he's had to work on that. He looks like
he used to smash a lot of rackets when he was younger. Not unlike until he was in his kind of early to mid 20s. Like, did that really change?
So yeah, there is hope for the person who's listening here who does smash rackets. You can change your behaviours.
Yeah,
he looks like he spends a lot of time in the present, so he's not getting too far ahead of himself and worrying about the next set or the match point or whatever it is. How do you do that in such a fast-paced sport? How do you stay in the moment?
I think you've just got to win that game. Like, I mean, it's the biggest cliche ever, but the game that you're playing is the only thing that really matters at that point, because with tennis you change serves from game to game, so your element of control sort of fluctuates. When you're serving, obviously you have the most control that you're ever going to have in a tennis match, and if you start focusing on the next game, when your control level kind of dips because you're returning serve, you can't control how they serve, what kind of serves they put in. If they serve 4 aces, there's absolutely nothing that you can do. So the current game is the only thing that you can influence. Even a game sometimes might be too long. So I think it's all down to just being mentally strong enough not to try and predict the future, or to just think about anything that's gone. It doesn't matter. What's happened? So we've got the best example is Djokovic was 2 sets to love up early in the week against Musetti, and he went on to win. Well, he didn't win 3-2 because Musetti retired when he was 4 love down in the 5th. And then the funny thing is he said he retired not because he was injured, because he couldn't win a point, so he just gave up and decided to not play the last couple of games. which is quite relatable in a psychology sort of point of view. Like the top players would never do that. I mean, yeah, the other guy who said he's a teenager, and it perhaps shows kind of the difference in mentality between the top guys and everyone else, really.
Yeah, they're pretty relentless, aren't they? They don't give away anything. And then it seems like as well, under pressure in those critical key moments, that they just produce something, don't they? They're absolutely fearless.
Yeah, I think they don't. They just, as I say, they just back themselves. They know they're the best players in the world. They just have that, concentration, have that focus, have that ability, and just there's no point playing differently because of the magnitude of the point. And that's actually one thing that I always like to mention to any athletes I work with. When it comes big points and you feel the tension, the only thing that should or that could affect is the execution of the shots, not the game plan, because the moment that changes the game plan, the problem just gets bigger and bigger. It can affect your technical side when you tense up. It's natural. It happens to the most resilient of players. But when you start thinking differently, you say, well, I've got to play safer so that I don't make unforced errors. Then you start playing differently to what you've just been doing, or when you've been practicing. You don't practice playing safe and just kind of hitting nothing shots across the net. So why all of a sudden do something different, especially in a point that you need to win, that you need to play at your best? When you're playing safe, you're obviously not at your best, and your game plan changes and everything sort of falls apart. So at least if you went for it and you didn't play it well, that was the right thing to do. It's just the execution was affected by whatever reasons and whatever thoughts that came up.
Yeah, I can imagine it's important to be able to try and reflect and pinpoint why you get drawn into those mental errors, and then somehow be brave enough to then get to one side and like you said, just fully express yourself.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously in both sports, when sometimes people tense up, so they decelerate the club or the racket. So it happens in both sports. In golf, if you decelerate, it's obviously kind of a big no-no, and you wouldn't be able to play the shot that you wanted to play, most likely anyway. And the same in tennis. If you tense up during a serve, if you want to play safe, the natural tendency is to slow it down. And when you slow it down, everything, the technique changes. What you've practiced doesn't really, it doesn't work, because counterintuitive. The faster you swing a racket, the more kind of safety there is, because there's more spin, and the margin for error is actually larger. But we don't tend to think like that under pressure. You're like, well, I've just got to make sure, slow everything down, play it softer. Softer equals safer in a lot of people's minds. And in tennis, that's the worst thing that you can do.
Yeah, because you ultimately are controlling the movement, aren't you? It's like it's like the golfer who has 100 swing thoughts on his or her way back, and then there's no way you can hit a shot properly in that respect. So I've loved this conversation, James. It's been good fun. Can you just tell the listeners, I mean, if we think about maybe the young up and coming tennis player who wants to get better, can you give them 3 takeaways from the conversation that we've had?
I mean, a couple of them we've mentioned already. It's never too late to work on the mental side of the game, because like say Federer was a bit of a hothead until his 20s. Djokovic is still sort of like that, but he can just rebound straight away. Like some people call him, a bit crazy. He goes, was it 2 nights ago? He lost a big point, and he just kind of put his foot through the advertising boards, and obviously people know that when he sort of smashed the ball last year and got disqualified because intentionally or not intentionally, it hit on the line judges. And so he even the best players, they still have stuff to work on. So it's never too late to kind of start. You can always start improving that side of the game. If it makes you better, then that's what you want. If not, just keep trying to improve in that area. And yeah, hopefully then that you'll get that satisfaction of being able to play the game that you, rather than just letting it affect you and just kind of being disappointed and having regret saying, oh, I played that point so badly because I just wasn't very confident. And secondly, all the takeaways are all kind of linked. So you get all the other players that maybe you can tell the top players and the not so top players. And so often we get told he is the next, Federer, or he is the next Djokovic. And they have all the talent in the world according to the coaches and even the peers, the coaches and everyone. And there's, he's got the most talent I've ever seen. So a couple of names that come to mind are, Nick Kyrgios and Alex Zverev. Neither of them have really kind of lived up to the potential yet. Hopefully they do at some point. But yeah, just showing the difference between having kind of that mindset and not having kind of the optimal mindset. So yeah, something to work on. And the last thing, just don't let the result of, each shot or even matches be the, be all and end all. The most important thing is doing the best we can do to improve, every single match, every single point. And yeah, spend some time to analyze the thoughts, like I mentioned, really investigate the relationship, what thoughts lead to what actions. Does that, is that going to benefit you in the future? If yes, then keep it. If no, then can we change that to something that's going to benefit you? And yeah, and then if you keep going and keep doing that, you'll soon have an arsenal of different thoughts that are good for you. And then as soon as something that is not going to benefit you kind of comes up in your head, you'll know straight away, and you can hopefully be capable of switching that off and just thinking what you want to, and have that mindset to play your natural game. And yeah, that'd be my last takeaway. Yeah.
Brilliant. I love it. Some great advice there for the tennis player there who wants to get better and improve. Whereabouts can the listeners find you should they want to get in touch and reach out to you?
Yeah, so I've got a Twitter account. It's at JL Sports Psych. And I've got a website at jlsportperformance.com as well. And yeah, those are probably the two easiest ways to get a hold of me. And my emails are on both of them. So if you want to send me an email, you can find them over there as well.
Excellent. I'll put those bits of contact details in the show notes. So if anybody does want to reach out to you for a conversation, then they've got your details. Really appreciate it.
Perfect.
And yeah, I'm pretty sure the listeners will definitely pick a good few nice tips from this. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
I hope you found this interview useful. I really enjoyed talking about the intricacies of a sport that I love watching. And if you play tennis and you're aware that you have some mental blocks that you need to overcome in order to play your best tennis, why not send me or James an email? We work closely together and love supporting tennis players to play with a smile on their faces. After all, that's what it's all about. Have a great week ahead. If you enjoyed this episode of the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast with David Charlton, do check out my website, sport-excellence.co.uk, and my online sports psychology resources. Sport-Excellence website has essential resources for anyone looking to build their own mental toughness or the mental toughness of their athletes or teams, or if you want to achieve peak performance more often or optimal functioning. The Sport Excellence website has everything you need to keep moving forward and thrive. So go on, head over to sport-excellence.co.uk to find out more.